And then our next speaker is a longtime member, Mr. Esteban, is serving as Sergeant at Arms for our club. He has given us so many really thoughtful speeches over the years. And he is going to be giving a speech from the dynamic, his is from the Dynamic Leadership Path, again, one of the 11 Toastmasters paths. This is a level 3 project. Each path has 3 to 5 projects within each level. So this is a level 3. Negotiate the best outcome, because Senate staffers were always negotiating text. Betsy's negotiating hotel contracts right now for a big conference. And so today, this is something that I think I'm really glad Mr. Esteban is going to be sharing. And so this speech is about for a member to learn about the different types of negotiations and the strategies that can be used when negotiating. And the purpose is for the member to share some aspect of a past or future negotiation in his life. I'm going to be his evaluator for this speech. And to introduce Mr. Esteban, let me just pull up his that he's our Sergeant at Arms, as I mentioned. He's also a resident of the District of Columbia. In his professional career, he previously served as the Chief Information Security Officer of his alma mater, Old Dominion University, and he's soon going to his high school reunion. So please help me welcome Mr. Esteban with his speech, Cybersecurity and Negotiating, a 5 to 7 minute speech.
Thank you very much, Madam Carroll. Toastmasters and guests, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Today, I'm going to be speaking about my work as a Chief Information Security Officer, also known as the CISO, also pronounced CISO of Old Dominion University. And ODU is a state university of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So in this role, I had to serve as civil service. Now, as CISO, I'm responsible for ensuring that the network of ODU operates in compliance with public law, federal regulations, and also organizational policies. In that case, it was agency policies. And some examples of these public laws was the FISMA, Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002, later amended to Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014. And also for FERPA, this is a Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and this governed private information such as the student's social security number and grades. So those are examples. FISMA mostly applies for federal agencies in the executive branch, whereas FERPA is more for the educational institutions. And with that, there are also audit requirements such as GLBA, Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which requires financial institutions or organizations that process financial information to have IT controls to restrict access to sensitive information. And with this work that I had to do, there was a lot of negotiating, because the bottom line is a lot of the IT workers didn't want to do the work to implement these security controls. The reason why is because there's a conflict of interest. Adding more security controls, such as more stricter passwords, they would increase the amount of hours that the IT employees would have to work. Sometimes there were constraining budgets, and they did not plan for these requirements to meet federal regulations or federal public law. So in these situations, 99% of the time I had to negotiate. So this presentation is about some of the high-level negotiation that I had to do when I was the CISO and some other roles. Next, my goal as a CISO is organizational compliance with governance, which I had mentioned to you as public law, federal regulations, or agency policies. Now, my negotiating style with these divisions in the group are, we start out, they are multifaceted. I will start with a collaborative approach, then a corroborative, trying to find out what works and what doesn't. Next, I will negotiate based on resources. And if there's no agreement, then I will enforce. Okay, so let me just start with, for example, FISMA, Federal Information Security Management Act. this public law holds the CIO of a federal agency accountable for the risk and possible impact that is realized if sensitive data is compromised. And therefore, at the end of the road, I can always, if I'm advising a federal agency, I could remind the IT employees that the CIO can be held accountable if there is a compromise of information, meaning maybe hackers get in. So that is something I don't like to start with. I like a more collaborative approach. Okay. In the FERPA environment and in educational institutions, yes, they don't have a federal FISMA, but they have state FISMA, and those will branch off from the federal laws. And therefore, I start out collaborating. I ask them, I look at what their mission goals are in their divisions, and then I think about what governance applies to them. What do I want to accomplish? What parts of FERPA do I need for them to accomplish? Maybe we just need to restrict access to grades better, something along those lines. And then later they'll tell me what their goals are once I establish rapport. And usually it's about rapid development. They want to code and develop products fast and get them out quickly so they can put these on to the customers, maybe the students, or if it's a private industry, maybe they want to send out an app onto the market and try and sell it. And that would be an example of that is fintech. And I understand the velocity of which they have to generate these products. However, what I do question and I scrutinize is their commitment to quality, because oftentimes when a small company in particular is generating these products quickly, a lot of times I've observed, and by doing audits, they're cutting corners somewhere just to get the product out. Why do they do that? Because that's their marketing edge on larger companies that will conduct a due diligence and work with due care during the coding process and development process. Smaller company, they will try to sell their products based on speed to market. Next, another is when I have their goals in mind, I talk about I corroborate with them, try to see what works and what doesn't. So maybe they say, if it's a financial company, then they'll talk about their core business services being on the mainframes, and they've been there for a long time. This is also called CBS. These are critical processes such as depositing checks, allowing withdrawals, and reporting information. And they often want to do a paradigm shift and move that information to the cloud, and where they can have these apps interface with the cloud quickly. And from there are issues that I work with them, what works, what doesn't, why do they want to move? Usually it's because of rapidity and not because of quality. Okay. And I have to actually fast forward here. And next I have negotiating on the resources. When they have expressed to me what their plans are, and we're talking about security controls, then I provide to them, again, the requirements needed to achieve compliance. And from there, I prioritize the list of what is most important in achieving compliance. And from there, I work, what can they afford? And it's a budget ratio or a personnel constraint. And then obviously it can't achieve 100% compliance, but I'll use a top down from priority, top to bottom. What is the highest risk? What is the highest impact? And if I cannot get an agreement, then I'll remind them, I will bring the CIO in and let them know that the CIO is held accountable for this, and they will actually have to do what the CIO wants them to do. So in summary, my negotiation style is multifaceted. I start with collaborative, next corroborative, try to see what works, then I negotiate based on resources, and then finally, if there's no agreement, then I do enforce. Thank you very much for listening to me, Madam Toastmaster. I yield back.